These are 5 ways a work of art can be great. If you think that all art is just personal opinion and there's no way to evaluate beauty, this video is not for you. If you believe you can't get better at enjoying art, you're in the wrong place. But if you want to find new ways to enjoy art and experience infinite beauty, you're in the right spot. So let's get started with the first and most important way a work of art can be great. And it is when a work of art is tight-knit.
Tight-knit, hard to vary.
Hmm?
What's that about?
Well, it's the idea that some art achieves greatness because every single piece, every element is just perfectly locked together.
Like, inseparable.
Exactly. You change one tiny detail and the whole thing is somehow lessened. Think of like a really intricate machine.
One gear wrong, and it doesn't work.
Precisely. And a great example our sources give is how art connects to its specific medium.
Ah, right. Like how a book is different from its movie adaptation.
Exactly. Often, something crucial gets lost. Clint Brooks focuses inward on the artwork as a self-contained, structured whole. He emphasizes the internal coherence and unity within the piece itself. It's all about how the parts work together perfectly. The source mentions House of Leaves, where the actual look of the text on the page is part of the story.
Oh, yeah, that's wild. You couldn't film that layout.
You really couldn't. It's intrinsically a book experience. Or think about dynamic symmetry in painting, that geometric structure.
Creating that sense of perfect balance.
Yes.
Yeah, it's really harmony with the frame.
Or graphic novels like Watchmen or Promethea. The way words and pictures work together is unique to comics.
It's not just delivering story, it is this story in many ways.
Exactly. Even radio plays using just sound.
Yeah, or certain films like 2001, where the visuals are just paramount.
Right. Or Buster Keaton's silent films The Physical Comedy is perfect for silent visual storytelling. The sources stress that each medium has these unique, inherent qualities.
And many of these qualities are hidden or underused.
Artists are still discovering what mediums can really do. They throw out wild, hypothetical examples for modern stuff. Using the pause button on YouTube artistically, AI in interactive fiction, paper thickness as a medium, QR codes and videos linking somewhere, AI movies with idle animations when paused,
Whoa.
visual art that changes based on who's looking or how long they look, music playlists based on a whole party's listening history, podcasts with interactive AI responses. It's about finding those unique properties.
It even mentions hidden mediums, things we don't normally think of as mediums, like a digital book format distinct from print, social media comment threads, websites, even someone's house.
Yeah, stretching the definition, and also multimedia stuff that's tight-knit across different mediums like interactive TV. The main point is we can't predefine how a work should be tight-knit. New appreciated qualities might emerge, like the technical skill in music mixing.
What about works that don't seem tied to a medium, like Shakespeare? You can read it, see it performed.
Good question. The sources call these vagabonds. They argue maybe some works are tight-knit in ways not tied to a specific medium. This raises the idea of universal art, maybe art that transcends medium constraints.
And VR is mentioned as potentially the most universal medium, able to encompass others, but maybe losing that specific harmony.
Right, huge potential, but maybe less inherent constraint, which could be good or bad for this harmony idea. The conclusion is basically, being tight-knit, especially in harmony with its medium, is one powerful way for art to be great.
When a work of art is tight-knit, it would be worse if any element of it were changed. That includes the medium, that includes any of the relationships within it. So that means that even if the work were created under different circumstances, the output would actually be the same, because any differences would make it worse, and that would be noticed and corrected. So that means that good art has this special quality, which is similar to a quality of knowledge.
Knowledge is a crystal across the multiverse.
Yeah. So, knowledge is defined here as information physically embodied in matter, which tends to preserve itself through error correction, even across tiny variations between parallel universes.
Whoa. So creating knowledge is like building stable structures in reality itself, across possibilities.
Yes. Stable patterns that resist disruption. And then the punchline. Beauty is presented as a form of this knowledge.
Beauty is knowledge.
Specifically, an error-corrected pattern that forms stable structures spanning multiple universes. It connects all the way back. Art's power, its potential for greatness, its ability to reconfigure us, it's all linked to creating or revealing these resilient cross-universal patterns we perceive as beautiful.
So beauty isn't just in the eye of the beholder, it's a fundamental self-preserving structure in the fabric of reality.
Yes.
If beauty truly is, as suggested, a form of knowledge creating stable structures across the multiverse, What responsibility does that place on us? On creators, yes, but also on appreciators of art. What role are we playing in weaving that fabric?
Something to ponder.
Indeed.
Our task is to appreciate art in better ways so that beauty can flourish across the multiverse. And the way to do that is with the second way that a work of art can be great, which is that it creates wide-reaching appreciation.
This one's about art acting like a gateway. Great art, in this view, doesn't just stand alone. It opens doors for you to appreciate more things.
More things. Like what?
Well, similar artworks, maybe a whole genre you didn't care for before, or even just art in general, sometimes it can even sharpen your perception of the world itself.
So like a documentary deepens your interest in history.
That's the idea. Or a family drama makes you think more about your own relationships. It creates ripples.
Reading a really good review or watching a video essay can totally change how you see a film or a painting.
Absolutely. So appreciating one thing can lead you to appreciate others, or even whole new ways of perceiving. It's a path towards that wider scope, maybe towards universal appreciation, seeing beauty everywhere.
But the sources also warn about perspectives that narrow appreciation.
Right. Dismissing whole genres, cultural biases, moral objections, getting in the way of aesthetic judgment, elitism. These things close doors. They block you from potentially infinite beauty and new ways of seeing.
You could listen to something that makes your appreciation narrow. Don't listen to those things.
Why does wider appreciation matter so much?
Because if beauty is potentially infinite, and if new ways of seeing can transform how we experience everything, then limiting our appreciation is limiting our potential experience of life. The sources contrast this with a dead-end view, where art has no reach, it's all disconnected, leading to finite appreciation. Non-art sources can massively shape our appreciation. The source mentions Arnold Schoenberg's writings on music theory.
How so?
Well, by explaining concepts like sentence form, he basically gave people tools, a kind of map, to understand and appreciate the structure of classical music better.
I get it. Makes sense. And sometimes art helps you appreciate other art more directly.
Definitely. Think about homage or adaptation. A great movie version might send you back to the original book with new eyes.
The sources must acknowledge that this doesn't always happen, right? Sometimes appreciation gets blocked.
Oh, for sure. Our own biases can get in the way. Dismissing whole genres like rap or country without listening.
Or maybe cultural biases or getting hung up on the morality of a piece.
Exactly. Elitism, too. These things act like walls, blocking those pathways the source talks about, limiting our potential for finding beauty. It really underlines the need to stay open-minded.
Definitely.
So the caution is, don't dismiss things too easily. You might be shutting yourself off from a whole realm of beauty, even in unexpected places. Like a Mr. Beast video, potentially, if you find a new lens.
It's a choice between worldviews. One that closes doors, one that opens them infinitely.
Pretty much.
And allowing for a wide-reaching appreciation is great, but a work of art would be missing something if it did not reliably change your mental state.
Okay, next up, reliable configuration of mental states. Sounds a bit technical.
But the core idea is pretty straightforward. It's about art's ability to consistently make you feel something specific.
Like calm or excitement or sadness.
Yes, those, but also more complex states. And the key word is reliably. It consistently triggers that state.
Okay, and the source made a distinction here, right, between empathy.
And something called direct induction. We should probably unpack those a bit.
Right, empathy. That seems straightforward. You see something in the art, maybe a character or a scene.
Yeah.
And it makes you feel a similar emotion, yeah.
Pretty much. The source uses Caspar David Friedrich's Wanderer Above the Sea of Fog. You know the one.
Oh yeah, the guy on the cliff looking out.
That's it. So you look at him, this lone figure, the mist, the way it's composed, the focus on the man, the clouds sort of pointing towards him, the kind of muted colors. It all works together. You feel a bit of that awe, that solitude yourself. It's like you're mirroring his feeling.
So like stepping into his shoes, emotionally speaking.
Pretty much, yeah.
We feel something because we kind of project ourselves onto that figure. Okay, I get that. Connection through feeling. So what's direct induction? How's that different?
Well, the contrast given is Edwin Church's Rainy Season in the Tropics. Now, this is different. First off, the painting is enormous, like almost 5 feet tall and 7 feet wide.
Wow.
And it's just bursting with color. Double rainbow, super dynamic, stuff happening all over the canvas. The point here isn't really to empathize with one person. It's the sheer scale and intensity of the painting itself that creates a feeling in you. It's like sensory overload, but in a good way. It directly induces that state of awe.
So it bypasses empathy and just hits you directly with the bigness of it all.
Kind of, yeah. It's the artwork acting on you, not you connecting with a depicted subject in the same way.
Huh. And it mentions tiny people working in the church painting, oblivious to the huge rainbow.
Yeah, it's a nice little detail, isn't it? Makes you wonder.
So art can mirror feelings or it can just create them directly.
Hmm.
Got it. That's a
Huh.
useful distinction. These feelings, these mental states, they aren't always simple emotions like happy or sad, are they? The sources seem to push beyond that.
That's a really crucial point. We often default to talking about basic emotions, but yeah, the writings point towards art that maybe uses emotion differently or even tries to get beyond emotion altogether. It's aiming for something maybe more complex or just other.
Like what?
Well, think about classical music. There's this whole historical debate. You had composers like Bach in the Baroque era. His whole thing was ideally, his music should be a pure vessel for God's glory,
Right.
right? Not clouded by his own messy human feelings. And you see similar ideas with Haydn, Mozart, early Beethoven, a lot of focus on structure, form, a kind of perfection that wasn't necessarily about pouring out personal angst.
Okay.
But then, later Beethoven, and especially the romantics like Mahler or Wagner, they went all in on expressing intense personal emotion, hugely dramatic stuff. And some people at the time actually thought that was kind of vulgar.
Vulgar, really?
Right.
Because it was too emotional.
Yeah, too representational, too direct.
Suggesting a preference for something subtler, a mental state that maybe takes more effort to perceive.
Yeah. And the sources connect this to other things too, like films by directors like Tarkovsky or Kubrick. They create these really specific moods, right? But they're hard to just label. They're not just sad movies or tense movies. It's something more specific, more atmospheric.
I get that, like a distinct feeling you only get from that film.
Exactly. And then there's Kandinsky. He was explicitly trying to use color and form to evoke mental states completely separate from recognizable objects or everyday emotions.
Okay, so art's toolbox for messing with our heads is way bigger than just making us feel happy or sad. It can configure us in all sorts of subtle, complex, even non-emotional ways.
Precisely. Which leads nicely into another idea from the sources, attention. And how art grabs it, and this concept of, well, vulgarity again.
Right. They mentioned a scale of surprise, from just being shocked to feeling profound awe, and maybe, obviously, sexuality is noted as a pretty reliable way to grab attention and configure the mind.
A very reliable way, yes. But the sources treat attention itself as this really interesting special case. Because art's ability to capture attention and then configure your mind seems to work on different levels.
Levels like how?
Think about reliability and reach. There's the individual level, something just clicks with you. Then the cultural level, it resonates within a specific group or society. Then a broader human level, things that tend to grab most people's attention instinctively. And then, maybe, a universal level, though that last one might need some training to appreciate.
Okay. So a jump scare gets anyone. A cultural meme needs context. A baby crying hits that human instinct. But universal, what would that even be?
That's the tricky part. It's less obvious, maybe requires more effort, more learning to perceive. And this is where the idea of vulgarity gets linked in.
How so?
The suggestion is that maybe vulgar art or techniques are the ones that rely heavily on grabbing attention at those easier, less trained levels. The individual, the cultural, the basic human.
Ah, I see. Like the example they use of a Mr. Beast video, making people cry through an engineered emotional moment. It works. It's reliable on a human level using empathy, but maybe it's less refined, less universal.
Potentially, yeah. Compared to something that achieves its effect through more subtle, perhaps more complex means that might resonate on that harder to reach universal level.
And they list these hippie traps, things that just grab our basic animal attention.
Right. Things like staring eyes, blinking lights, fire, lows of sugar, high-pitched sounds, even swear words or emojis in text. Things that reliably snag our attention.
But the warning is that these might distract from deeper, maybe more universal reasons for paying attention to something, like easy shortcuts.
Exactly. They're reliable, but maybe shallow. The suggestion is that the higher level, more universal stuff is less obvious, needs that training or sensitivity. And the mental states it configures aren't your everyday named emotions. It's aiming for something else.
Okay, that's a lot to chew on about attention.
But catching attention doesn't mean anything if you can't spark derivatives. Derivatives can come in many forms. So a simple thing would just be a memory, right? Watching or viewing a work of art and then having that memory in your mind, that is a derivative of that work of art. And also you could have external memories, so just having notes or anything like that. Having discussion is also a derivative of a work of art, and that can be in the form of even YouTube comments or YouTube commentary like we're doing here. And that continues further into creating other works of art that are derivative. So simple examples again are Translations, a translation from one language to the next is a different work of art. It's a derivative work of art. Having an adaptation, so moving it from one medium to the next medium, that is another derivative work of art. And then into what we kind of normally think of as a derivative, taking heavy inspiration from a particular work of art and making it a completely new work of art based on those inspirations. Those inspirations can take many forms. It can be just a variation of the same themes or of the same qualities of the original work of art. You can fragment parts of it, so take parts of it and just cut them up, or you can elaborate and expand on those different themes or different qualities. These are what we generally think of as inspiration or as a derivative. And in this case, the work of art that is the resulting of that could not exist without the original. Does that make sense? I mean, the opposite way is when you create a work of art that sparks derivatives, you create the possibility for new works of art that could not have existed without the original. It creates a lineage that could not have existed beforehand. This is genuine progress for humanity. This is progress for the entire universe. You're now creating the possibility for new structures to exist that could not have existed without it. These are new forms of art that depended on previous works.
Wow. Okay, so greatness is clearly not one thing. It's all over the map.
Absolutely. It's this incredible spectrum. When you encounter art, maybe think beyond just like dislike. Think, why does it work or not work for you? Which of these kinds of greatness might it be aiming for or achieving?
Yeah, even if you don't personally connect with it, you can maybe appreciate what it's trying to do based on one of these ideas.
Exactly. It broadens your appreciation.
All right, those are the 5 ways a work of art can be great. If you're this far in the video, you're probably interested in this stuff. This is all derivative of David Deutsch's lecture on flowers. No one else on the internet is talking about this stuff, so it's really up to you to discuss this more.